Hello guys, welcome to Daddy Share Space and welcome to my channel. So here I have my Veritas dowel maker. I purchased this a little while back, and when I first started using it I was unable to get my dowel game up. I decided to pull it back out after taking a trip to my local Home Depot to pick up some dowels. And on my way home, I realized, you bought that dowel making machine. You need to really figure out how to use it because that's what you bought it for. Now, when I had come home from Home Depot, I had bought probably about maybe a quarter of the price of this machine worth of dowels. So I did not use them. I took them all back to the store. And as you see here, I am starting to have some success with using the dowel maker machine. So what I realized that I was getting wrong was there's a front adjustment and a back adjustment. The back adjustment is closer to the user, the person that's drilling the dowel into the machine. And I was getting confused, and I was setting the diameter of the dowel to the same diameter because it's all based on revolutions. So like the back adjustment may be like 11.2 revolutions, whereas the front may be something like 6 or 7 revolutions. And that was causing me to start the beginning of my dowel at a narrower portion. And even though I was cutting my stock to the prescribed size, it was just tearing up the wood. So even when I started this session, I was still having a few difficulties here and there. However, obviously those are edited out in this particular video. I just wanted to kind of show that I was having a little bit more success using the Veritas dowel maker. So my goal in using the Veritas dowel maker is to try to make dowels for my Mafel dual doweler so that I don't have to purchase them as often. But then I also thought about using these dowels along with a drill bit that would drill a hole that would make the dowel fit inside of it. I could use these to make some pretty quick French cleats for a lot of the tools that I've been saying that I was going to make a French cleat holder for a long time. Now, I'm always coming up with ideas, but I also often end up not being able to follow through, whether it be because I feel like I don't have what I need to do it, or because I get caught up in the paralysis versus analysis stage where I come up with 10 different ideas and I can't decide which one is best. Now, for the French cleat holders in the past that I was making, I would cut out the back for the French cleat. I would cut out the French cleat portion, and then the way that I would connect the tool would be to utilize a piece of plywood. I wouldn't round the edges or anything like that, and I would use a chisel or something like that to cut out a square area so that if my piece of wood was either square in shape or rectangular in shape, it would fit in. And I would just kind of make a little bit of a groove and then stick it in there, glue it, and if necessary I would screw it from the back or nail it. So using the dowels makes it a little bit easier. Now all I have to do is kind of marry up my idea of using a dowel with the proper size, either Forstner bit or paddle bit, so that I can make that a nice snug fit. My first attempt at doing this, I was using one of those spade paddle bits, and I didn't drill all the way through the material. And what ended up happening was the dowel that I was supposed to be making was supposed to be an inch in diameter, and the spade bit was also supposed to be an inch in diameter. Somehow or another, either my dowel was a little bit undersized or the spade bit wasn't quite as accurate as it was labeled. I'm leaning towards I made the dowel a little bit undersized. When I stuck the dowel into the hole, it was not a snug, tight fit. So there was a lot of play on the inside. Now, obviously, when you use one of those spade bits, it has that pointed tip. And so I had a hole drilled all the way through the back of the plywood. I tried to save the project by using a screw through the pilot hole that went through the back, and then also using glue to glue the dowel in. But what ended up happening is the dowel didn't sit quite flush. The dowel was cockeyed because it didn't have any surrounding wood to stand up straight. So when I went to screw it in, it just cocked at an angle. So that wasn't the best solution. It definitely didn't look very good. So I need to go back and try to tinker with the Veritas dowel maker a little bit more to try to get the adjustment dialed in to work with the spade bit that I have. Once I get that done, then I can proceed with making dowels that will fit within the tools that have a circumference of that 1 inch to where it will fit through, like where it be, whether it be the trigger or up under any part of the tool. And then for the tools that have smaller openings, I would go down to like a 3/4 inch dowel or even down to a 1/2 inch dowel respectively. This is my goal. This is what I'm trying to do with my dowel maker. I have several ideas as far as what I can use this machine for. Obviously you could make rods. If you needed to do like a curtain rod, you could make plugs for different things, like if you put screws in your project and then you drill down with the Forstner bit to make it, the screw head be recessed, then you can make a dowel covering, a wooden dowel, which would make your project look like it doesn't have any screw openings, which is also another use that is good for a dowel making machine like this. So many of my tools that I purchased, I bought them and I have not gotten up to speed as I need to. And so even though I have the functional capability in the shop, I don't have the experience with the tool that would allow me to realize the gains that are in my shop. At this stage in my shop building, I'm not so much as concerned with getting my skill sets up as much as I am with making sure that I have the proper tools in my shop to do exactly what I want to do when I want to do it. There's nothing worse than when you go into the shop and you decide you want to build something or design something and you recognize that you don't have all the tools to do your best work. Now, I know there are a lot of workarounds and different things like that, but for myself personally, I'm more of a goal-oriented person. I do believe that I need to develop a passion for the process. I'm not setting that aside, but for me personally, getting to the end result and seeing what that end product I feel is what's going to fuel my fire and help me to get deeper within this process of woodworking. Sometimes when I pull out my tools and I just practice with one tool, I know that it's actually helping me, but it doesn't always feel as though it's productive and constructive. And like when I try to make that French cleat holder, when it doesn't come together properly because you didn't check off all of your boxes, it can be a bit challenging. It's so much easier to go buy a 1 inch dowel from the store and then buy a 1 inch, whether it be Forstner bit or spade bit, drill the hole and it fits in taut. You add a little bit more of a challenge when you decide, okay, I'm gonna buy a machine that requires me to dial in the exact diameter. And then once I get that exact diameter, then I can proceed with the job at hand. Obviously, having the ability to make any kind of dowel size that you would like within your shop is a benefit. But as I have found personally, it can also be a drawback, because just because you have the capability to do something, if you don't have the experience, that's not a realized gain until you get that experience. So with so many of my tools in the shop, this is the case. But, you know, I'm encouraged for myself personally because, you know, the big picture is growing to the point to where I can do what I see in my mind. I can do what I imagine. And so external forces don't really come into play. You know, I'm blessed for being able to purchase the tools that I have and to not have to make my living by doing this. If I did, I would be broke. But I have time, as long as I'm given life by God, to be able to tinker around and, you know, fool around with my tools. And eventually I know that I will be able to at least be mediocre in this building process. When I get to that place, I'll be able to make coffee tables, end tables, bookshelves, dining room tables, and put my own special spin on it. Now that the special spin is, way down the line for me. Right now, I just need to find that correct path for me when it comes to joinery and when it comes to being able to make sure I get a straight cut. Adding that woodpecker square set is going to help me with making sure that when I scribe out my material that I'm getting a close to 90-degree line. It will also help me to see if I'm using my Festool MFT or if I'm using my home built MFT, if my joint is going to be square. With the addition of the woodpecker squares in the shop, I now have a trusted reference that I can use for all of my projects. So things should start to come together better. Now it will be a little bit cumbersome using the larger squares for smaller things, but I'll take what I have for now. The one benefit to me buying the larger squares is the fact that they are more expensive than the smaller squares, so it's now more of a downhill process. When I go to buy the smaller squares, then obviously I won't have to spend as much money. I remember walking past construction sites in the past and seeing that green material wrapped around the fence, and you may walk past that site over time and never see any actual action, and that's because when they're building a tall building, they have to dig down deep in order to get to the level of bedrock that they need to get to, and that is in direct correlation to how tall they want that building to be. And that analogy kind of reminds me of what I'm trying to do in my shop. I want to make sure that I'm digging deep enough, and that's represented by making sure I have the correct collection of tools. That's making sure that I have my shop set up in the right way. That's making sure that I get more proficient with using my tools. And then as all of that stuff starts to meld together, the end result should be that I should be competent at being able to make some of the most basic projects or basic furniture. Oftentimes I have to keep my mind focused and recognize that whether it be like maintenance, whether it be drywall, whether it be, fixing things, is not exactly the same as woodworking, and it requires a totally different skill set. And sometimes when I'm in the shop, I get a little bit tied up with that. And, when I made my wall carts, my rolling wall carts, that was basic construction techniques using 16 on center inch studs and then putting drywall on them. That process really isn't directly related to woodworking. When you go into woodworking, you're looking at more refined cuts, more accurate cuts. You need things to be a little bit more precise. And as I'm jumping back and forth with my skills, I think overall it's kind of slowing me down, but I look at that as part of that digging down deep to get a really good understanding of what I'm trying to do, because I have as long as I'm going to live to kind of figure this thing out, and I am enjoying the process. I do need to spend more time with each tool so that I get a better feel for it, so that I know how to take care of it better. And I need to have more patience in that way so that I can start to see better results. But globally, like I was trying to explain, when I made the French cleat holder recently, it didn't turn out properly because I didn't check all my corners, if you will. I didn't consider the whole process of what could be wrong. Even though I was successful at being able to get back up and running with the dowel maker, what I didn't check was if the dowel was exactly 1 inch. I just assumed, based upon looking at the literature of the Veritas dowel maker, that everything was dialed in properly, I did not consider that maybe I need to make some micro adjustments to marry things up. Now, the Veritas dowel maker, I think the largest dowel size it makes is like 1 inch with this particular setup. So if I have a Forstner bit or a spade bit that's over that 1 inch, then I'm not going to be able to use it. Then I need to get a smaller drill bit or something that's more accurate. On the flip side of that coin, if I need to back off just slightly to get that 1 inch dowel, then that's what I need to do. Or maybe if I can make it just slightly oversized, then I can take it to the sander and sand it down to get that perfect fit. But even that adds another element that I need to be mindful of. Anyways, guys, I want to thank you for taking time to watch this video, and I will see you in my next one. Take care.